Hey, what's up, perverts? Thank you all for listening to another episode of 25 Days, 25 Gripes, in which we skew annoying ass people and their annoying ass habits. I'm your host, Mr. P, and today we're talking about cancel culture and people who are easily offended. Or a more apt term, fucking crybabies. Now, this is such a layered subject because, as with most topics of discussion, it's not black and white. I guess a good way to kick it off, so while I think it's hilarious to dig shit up on other people from years ago and sometimes expose their bullshit, it's gotten to a ridiculous point in which you can't say or do anything in fear of hurting somebody's feelings, and thus having an internet mob at your doorstep. I'd imagine this is one of those episodes in which I'm at my most boomer-esque, but even old people aren't exonerated from this subject either, because I met so many elderly people who have said something heinous multiple times in the past, and just chalk it up to, well, it was okay to be like that back then. Things were just different. By different, you mean it was okay to be racist. Okay, got it. There definitely is a line to draw in the sand of what used to be okay and now isn't, and then just getting upset because you know it'll net you attention. One of my favorite comedian quotes regarding the shift in attitudes is from this comic Joe List. In the 90s, we didn't call it body shaming. We called it telling you what you look like to your face. Which is probably part of the issue. Going back to the slang episode, people in their teens and 20s will just start making up words like, what the fuck does gaslighting mean? I've had like 4 people try to explain it to me and I've gotten 4 different definitions. I'm convinced that nobody knows what it actually means. And this is where TikTok again comes into play, because it taps into the segment of the population that can't think for themselves. Do you not realize that starting an entire mob to go after somebody and ruin their lives is not that far off from grade school bullying? That goes even further for people who were caught saying something years ago that they shouldn't have. And we've all done that, by the way. Even the most politically correct activists. You know you've said something at some point in time that if there were a smartphone hidden in the room, you wouldn't be the most popular person afterwards. Now, there's obviously a caveat. If you were caught saying or doing something, then continued to display that shitty behavior over the years, then that's where I think it's useful to shine a light on this person. Like, for example, the grab him by the pussy video with Donald Trump revealed nothing new to us because we've known for years that he was a slimeball who would harass women. Just because he's never been charged with anything doesn't mean that he doesn't have a long history of lawsuits and general track record of just being a fucking noodlehead. And then you compare that with Joe Rogan, which I've never seen the clips of him using these slurs, but from my understanding, he was discussing how other people use the words and that it was taken out of context. Which, by the way, taken out of context is my favorite cover-up for, sorry I was caught airing my true feelings. But even then he apologized and said that there's no excuse for him speaking like that. But that didn't try to stop people from trying to have him banned from life, which of course didn't work. He just had to delete a shit ton of his episodes. And this is probably where this crosses over into the area of cancel culture that really drives me up a fucking wall, on a personal level. Comedy is suffering over this colossal issue. I'm a huge comedy fan, and that's probably the first thing you know about me if you knew me in real life. And the beautiful thing about comedy is that it mirrors sadness. Gilbert Gottfried always said, the portraits of a laughing mask are usually accompanied with a crying mask because comedy is pain plus time. Trying to cancel somebody doesn't bring about actual social change towards the issue you're outraged about. It only redirects that rage towards the person getting canceled. Just like laughing at a joke that may be perceived insensitive doesn't make you racist or sexist for laughing at it, as long as you're under the pretense that it's a joke. I was having this discussion with a coworker the other day. You know, oftentimes with race humor, you're not making fun of a race. I mean, sometimes you are, but oftentimes you're satirizing the actual racist people or homophobic people, and you're making fun of them. These people who walk around with these beliefs and think that it's correct to live this way and treat people like this. Now, it would be something completely different if you saw somebody that was a different race than you in public, and you walked up to them talking about, you know what, there's something off about you. Something not American. And that doesn't fly here. And not to sound like I'm not racist, my best friend is of a different ethnicity guy. But I know I mentioned before here I have 3 or 4 best friends. One is a lesbian and she's proud of it, and I'm proud of her for being proud. It's a conglomerate of proudness, so to speak. My second best friend is of multiple Hispanic heritages. Neither one of them have ever looked at me sideways like I was a bad person for some of the jokes I'll crack, because they know underneath it all, I'd be the first person to help them with anything, especially when it came to standing up for themselves and what they believe in. And my other two best friends are just two boring white men. But also what sucks about the situation is a picking and choosing of what's offensive and what isn't. It's like Trey and Matt from South Park have said, either all of it's okay, or none of it's okay. We're clearly in an age where none of it's okay. So much so that you have the king of all media, Mr. Shock Jock himself, Howard Stern, trying to say that he's evolved over the years, and he thinks that going back and deleting his archives of all the racy shit he's said and done back in the day will help save face. If anything, I would welcome people to see those clips because they can see for themselves how much you've really evolved over time. Show us, not tell us, goddammit.
What about you guys? Have you ever canceled anybody? Do you know what gaslighting means? And if you do, can you please try explaining it to me in a cohesive manner? Have you ever met an old person who tried covering up their prejudiced ways by saying that's just how things were back then? Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode. Tomorrow we're covering vegans and their attitudes. Just because you're okay with eating a tree branch for lunch doesn't mean that I have to be. Thank you guys for listening, and as always, if you're enjoying what I'm spewing, please like and subscribe.